This is Inside Heavies Behind the Cover, where we give you the backstory into the making of the most famous heavy metal and hard rock album covers in history by introducing you to the creators of those covers. In 1975, Kiss was at the top of their game. Their management and PR company was in full vigor. The band was artistically firing on all cylinders, and they were about to enter the studios with a genius producer named Bob Ezrin to create one of the greatest hard rock albums of all time, which would be called Destroyer. To put this all in a package, they needed a cover that would encapsulate who Kiss had become and capture their epic nature, and for that task, they turned to fantasy hero artist Ken Kelly. Ken Kelly joins us right here on Inside Heavies Behind the Cover to give us the full backstory to the creation of the album cover for the Kiss album Destroyer, a timeless piece of rock art. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Ken Kelly.
Hey, Inside Heavy has got your gear. We have created a shop where you can buy everything you need to display your favorite heavy metal band on your back. What are you looking for? Hats, t-shirts, patches, body jewelry, whatever, we got it in our heavy metal gear shop, powered by Amazon.com. Check it out.
We are back with Ken Kelly right here on Inside Heavies Behind the Cover. We are joined on the phone by legendary artist Ken Kelly. He did the Destroyer album for Kiss, classic piece of rock art. Ken, thanks for coming on Inside Heavy and talking about Destroyer with us.
Hello, Ivan. Very nice to be here. Very, very nice to meet you and your audience.
Ken, before we get in talking about Destroyer, let's just real quick talk about how you got into art and stuff like that. How'd you get into being an artist?
I've always had the basic talents, and it was actually a necessity that brought me into it. It was as I became an adult and realized I had no other means of support. I knew the best thing I knew how to do was to create art, and that's what led me into that field.
Absolutely. Now you're in the New York area, in New York?
Yes, I am out on Long Island, just outside of New York.
Now, is that where you grew up and became an artist, in the York area?
Basically, I've lived my life on Long Island, yes.
Okay. Did you go to college or anything, or just had the skill and developed it?
I actually did 4 years in the military, which to me was the equivalent of a college degree. Mm-hmm. I spent a lot of time throughout the world, traveled the entire world, and by the time I got out of the military, I was ready to start my art career because I had already used my art talents in the military to get ahead. So I was ready by the time I got out of the military.
Right. Now, they classify a lot of your artwork, at least, as fantasy art, I guess.
Fantasy, correct.
I noticed that the common theme that to me identifies your artwork as, muscular guys like Conan. You did some of the Conan stuff, I guess.
Yes, I did. It's called heroic fantasy, actually.
What is it called?
Heroic fantasy is my category.
Okay. Was you always in that, or did you start out, painting ships on the ocean or something?
Well, actually, I started out in horror with the Warren magazine, Creepy Eerie Vampirella, and things like that, doing covers for that publication, and it was of the horror genre, so that was my start.
Cool. Now, let's talk about Destroyer. This is why we're talking. Kiss Destroyer. I think it was 75?
I believe so, yes.
And they contacted you to do their the Destroyer album cover. What was the connection? How did you get contacted by Kiss? I know Gene Simmons is a big comic book guy. I don't know if he just appreciated your art because of that connection or not.
I wish. I don't believe he even knew I existed. Oh. I was, as I just mentioned, I was doing horror covers for the Warren publication. Each month, those covers that I had my artwork on the cover were put on newsstands all over the country, and a lot of those newsstands were in Manhattan. And when Kiss was looking for a cover, they had tried other artists, but it didn't work. And the art director told Bill Aucoin, the manager, told the art director to go downstairs and look on the newsstands and see if he saw anything. And he actually picked up one of my covers, brought it upstairs, and they loved it, called me, and that was the beginning.
And now, did they have any ideas that they wanted for the cover, or was it totally your own inspiration and ideas for the cover?
I believe it was their idea. The art director wanted 4 abreast, and we got into some problems with the background, which necessitated a second cover, but that came a few months later.
Right. Now, as I understand it, like you just said, you did one cover first, and on your site, I educated myself about it. You call it Kiss Brown.
Yes, it is.
And they had a problem with some of the violence in it or something, and it wasn't that. In this day and age, that's kind of laughable. It's not that violent, but tell the story if you would.
Yes, well, in 1975, like you say, today anything goes with the gore and the body parts flying, and that's just normal, everyday stuff nowadays. Mm-hmm. But back in 75, it was a very sensitive audience, and I had the 4 guys running out of a city. Very close to them was a city in the background, and the city was completely demolished. Just bricks, a few bricks left with a lot of fire and things behind them, and the parent company, the label, Casablanca Label, decided that it was too violent, that it suggested that this rock group was actually a destroyer of cities, and they rejected the cover outright. So the guys came back to me and told me that about this problem, and told me I had to do another cover, which to me was fantastic because I got paid a second time. And it was great, and we put the violence a few miles back. We put them way up on a hill, on a mountaintop actually, mm-hmm. and we put the violence so far back that it looks like dots in the sand. Mm-hmm. And the label accepted that cover, and the color tone of that particular second cover was in the blue color categories, because while I was going from one cover to the other. The guys decided, because they had time, they would change out of their Alive costumes and create new costumes for this Destroyer. So all of these things coming into effect, that's how Destroyer became to be.
Right. Now, how hard was it to redo? Because it almost to me looks the same.
Identical.
It's just identical with some different color tones and different outfits. How hard was it to do? Because I assume you were painting this with paints, right?
Yeah, this was an oil painting, and all done by hand, and it was as hard as the first one. Actually, no, it was easier than the first one. The first was the hardest one. Mm-hmm. I created the poses all myself, the first one, did all of the painting on it, and the actual painting, the first one, the brown cover, has much more paint on it because I was resolving my problems and all my challenges that an artist usually has creating covers. With the first one, by the time I got to the second one, all my problems, most of my problems were solved. So there's a lot less paint on the second one. So to me, it's what I do every day.
Sure. What? How long did it, from start to finish, did this take to do the first one and then the second one? Kiss put their music out real quick back then. It wasn't, nowadays it's about a 2-year window between albums for most bands, anyways. And back then they were doing like 2, 3, 4, sometimes a year. There wasn't that big of a lull there between the Kiss Alive and then this, and you must have been working quick.
Yeah, well, it takes no more than about 2 weeks to do any of these things. 3 weeks, a month at the absolute tops.